Hello guys, I'm Yurchenko and today I would like to start series of my videos 10 best places to visit in Kyiv. Well, definitely Kyiv is the best place to visit in Ukraine itself. It's where the history of modern Russia, Ukraine and Belarus starts. According to the legend, by the time when Slavic people became the dominant people group of the Baltic to the Black Sea, by the 9th century, population became to be covered to Christianity. And by the way, it's main reason why you can observe such a variety of beautiful churches and monasteries all over Ukraine. We just flew over one of them. It's St. Michael's Vidovitsky Men's Monastery. Founded by the son of Yaroslav the Wise, Prince Vsevolod, this monastery is a symbol of orthodoxy. It's not the main, but my favorite entrance to the garden, and it's where we start and end our journey today. Just take a look at this lilac and imagine how calm and peaceful it is to walk among these bushes here. So, coming back to the history of Kiev, in 19th century, Bergen Prince Rurik came over the place which is now known as Kiev to establish the rule and order. This is the place where powerful trading centers were built. This is the place where Russian civilization starts. I live in Kiev just a bit more than 2 years, and even though I love this city, one of my favorite places to come is Grishko National Botanical Garden. Just imagine the variety of tremendous smells in May, when most of the flowers are in bloom. I rate this place as number one of must to visit in your trip to Ukraine. So we are flying higher to show the most popular trees in Ukraine. Top one in Kiev is chestnut. It is a symbol of Kiev tart, most popular cake to bring home after visiting the capital. Other popular trees are fir trees, willow, mate tree, oak, birch trees. These are the main when you talk about Russian culture, poems, and literature. Unfortunately, as you can see by the condition of the park, there is a lack of foundation and a work towards the maintenance of its parts. We are flying over the rose garden. You might go down the maze and challenge yourself in finding the Minotaur monster, or a bit further, conquer the mountain of Crimea Peninsula. These are just jokes, of course. But when the founder of the garden planned the development of the territory in the park, they took pieces of landscapes and plants all over Ukraine and some other countries as well. Actually, park is divided to 5 countries or cultures in its sectors. There was a gift made by Indonesian embassy to build a corner with Indonesian landscape and plants. We have a Korean garden here, piece of India, Tibet, and Japanese village. Each country or culture is trying to invest its contribution to organizing different events or holiday for people in Ukraine. And we are slowly approaching to the greenhouse of the botanical garden. Basically, just being in a greenhouse, you can send yourself to a worldwide trip, opening the most remote and unusual corners of our planet. From the time of Columbus, people were wondering how to preserve and keep close their favorite plants in their natural climate. And our greenhouse is a great example of how it can be done. Lots of attempts were made to build a greenhouse in Kiev, and only in 70s few expeditions were made by the scientific boat of academic Vernansky to different tropical countries. Workers of Botanical Garden had a chance to visit Australia, New Zealand, and Malaysian archipelago. Now we're approaching the Trinity Monastery of St. John's. It was Jonas who founded this monastery in 1864. By 1918, it counted more than 800 monks and priests. It was active until 1934, when it was closed due to the order of Soviet government. In 1935, the monastery relocated to the territory which is now the territory of Rishkon National Botanical Garden. In 1991, it was given back to Orthodox Church. In the beginning of the second millennium, the main temple of the monastery was under restoration. Trinity Church, belfry, clock tower, and barracks of monks were rebuilt.
Let's go back to the history of the garden creation. The botanical garden unfortunately has a pretty dramatic background. The idea of its creation originated in the fall of 1918, when the National Academy of Sciences was established. Among its institutions was the Botanical Garden. His scientific foundations were developed in the works of the world-famous florist, traveler, and expert of botanical gardens of the world. One of the first presidents of the Academy of Sciences in Ukraine, Vladimir Lipsky. He was the one who established the idea of this botanical garden, outlined its structure and activities, developed a detailed construction plan. But the plan was not implemented. The royal family was shot in the night of July 16, 1918, in the basement of the house of engineer Nikolai Ipatiev in Yekaterinburg. 10 years after, Lipsky moved to Odessa. But his name as scientist who stood at the origins of the academic botanical garden in Kyiv will forever remain in the memory of botanists. After the departure of Lipsky to Odessa, the question of building a new botanical garden was repeatedly raised by no less famous botanists, academician Oleksandr. After the transfer of the capital of Ukraine from Kharkiv to Kyiv, the government in the fall of 1935, by decision of Kyiv City Council, approved the construction of botanical garden and the allocation of the land for this purpose with the area of 117 hectares. And now we have finally approached to the main entrance. This is exactly the place where you most likely will come in order to visit this place for the first time, especially if you take the subway. You have to take the subway to the station that is called Druzhby Narodiv and have about 10 minutes walk here. Make sure to bring some water, some snacks, and make sure to take all your trash with you after visiting the park. Now we are slowly approaching to the Indonesian park, and unfortunately this time when I was there in May, the palms are taken out of that place, but during the summer, I believe they would plant palms over that place and it would look way more beautiful than it is now. The implementation of the project faced significant difficulties, not only due to incomplete funding, but also with the difficulty of resettlement families in several organizations from two-thirds of territory, which was located in the future botanical garden. But despite this, by the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, about 1,000 species of plants in the open air and almost 1,000 of greenhouse plants were collected, and a separate building for scientific laboratories was built. Over the time of the temporary occupation of Kyiv by Nazi Germany, most of the collections were lost despite the heroic efforts of a small group of workers, mostly women, and acting director of Botanical Garden, Oleksandr, who held this position in March 1944. With the new force, the construction of Botanical Garden began during the war after the liberation of Kyiv. In July 1944, the garden received the status of an independent institution of the Academy of Science. Headed by the outstanding Ukrainian scientist, botanist, and breeder, academician Nikolai Nikolaevich Yurchenko, who was born in 1901 and died in 1964. Under his leadership, the scientific part of the master plan for the reconstruction of the botanical garden was developed, and the architectural and planning part of the post-war project was performed by the academician of the architecture, Vlasov, by that time the chief architect of Kyiv. First post-war stage of construction of Botanical Garden, the focus was on organization of expeditions and scientific business trips for the accumulation and formation of the plant collections. The search of the most valuable and necessary species and forms of plants from different parts of the world, their reproduction, the formation of expositions. The collected unit served as basis for areas of research, the aspects of which at that time was the mobilization of plant resources for the benefits of society, the creation and introduction of new species, forms and varieties of plants in different areas of the national household. The achievements of the first director of the post-war period, academician Yurchenko, and a small group of botanists, mostly from yesterday's veterans, are priceless, because their efforts made it possible to create a unique in size and composition botanical garden, successfully place collections and exhibits of plants, and combine research goals with education, upbringing, and recreation. Followers praised their leader, who devoted himself to a true self-sacrifice, outstanding contributions to the development of the botanical garden. The National Botanical Garden was honored to have a name of Nikolai Nikolaevich Grishko. Alright, I think you're tired of me talking all the time, so for now, just take a look at how beautiful Kyiv is and listen to music, relax, and enjoy the rest of your day.